Let's take a look at the first one. We want to simplify this expression. We have 3 to the negative 7 times x to the negative 6 times y squared over 3 to the negative 4 x to the negative 9 times y to the 4th power. So what we need to do, we will turn the exponential function and into, let's say in the first one, we have 3 to the negative 7 divided by 3 to the negative 4. So what's that really means? That means 3 raised to the negative 7 minus negative 4. Very good. That's very often we made a mistake dealing with the negative situation. We have the quotient. We have an exponential function divided by each other and share the same base. So we keep the base and we subtract the exponent. How about the next one? X to the negative 6 divided by x to the negative 9. That will become x to the negative 6 minus negative 9. Y squared divided by y to the 4. That will become y to the second minus 4. Why we have that? Because we have a to the m divided by a to the n, and we will keep the base and subtract the exponents together. So we have this. And then let's continue to simplify. 3 raised to the negative 7 minus negative 3, it will become 3 to the negative 3, and then times x to the negative 6 plus 9, that gives you 3 times y to the negative 2. Can we leave the answer like that? No, because we have a negative exponent. So we have to deal with the negative exponents, and we have to recall another formula. Whenever we got the negative exponents, a raised to the negative m, we will turn it into 1 over a to the m power. We will make it like this. So let's see what happens over here. Well, we have 3 factors, x to the 3rd. That means positive exponent, so we'll leave it untouched. While the first factor and the last factor are negative exponent, so we will bring it down to the denominator. So that turned out to be x cubed over 3 cubed times y to the second. Should it be like that? Very close, but not yet. We can simplify a little bit more. 3 to the 3rd power, what would that be? 3 times itself, 3 times, so it will become 27. So that will be my final answer. 3 divided by 3. What do you mean? You mean from the very beginning? From the very beginning. Can we have 3 divided by 3? We cannot, because this is an exponential form. So we cannot say, okay, let's cancel out the base, make it becomes negative 7 over negative 4. And that would be wrong. So be careful about that. Now, so we go over 2 exponential rules, the properties. And the next one is more likely you will see that, because, well, if you see the first one, then you should be very happy, because it's so simple. It's more likely something like number 2. So let's take a look at the number 2. We have two ways we can do. We can bring the negative exponent inside the parentheses and then simplify, or we can simplify whatever inside the parentheses and then take care of the negative 2 exponents later. Which one would be a better approach? It probably would be the later one. Simplify whatever inside the parentheses first, because we see that whatever inside the parentheses can be simplified. So let's take a look. We have parentheses. Now we are simplifying whatever inside the parentheses. So we still have an open parenthesis. And later on, we still have a closed parenthesis. We still have raised it to the negative 2. So let's see what happened inside the parenthesis. 12 divided by 3. We have 4 times. We have x to the negative 3 divided by x. So we will have x raise it to the negative 3 minus 1 times y to the negative 2 divided by y to the negative 2. So we have y to the negative 2 minus negative 2 times z raise it to the 4 minus negative 4. And then close the parenthesis. And the whole thing raise it to negative 2. So again, we are using the properties that we have from the previous problem, the second properties. Simplify more inside the parentheses. We got parentheses 4 times x raised to the negative 4 times y to the, what is negative 2 minus negative 2? You should know it very well. That would be 0. Now, if you struggle with the arithmetics, that doesn't mean that you can't get the right answer, but you will have to tell yourself, hey, I always need to double check with your dancing shoe. If you don't bother, that is your choice. Right? If you know that, you know you are weak on that, make sure you help yourself. Times z raise it to the 4 minus negative 4. That would be 8. And close the parentheses, raise it to the negative 2. And now, in the middle, we have y to the 0. What's that mean? What is y to the 0? That is 1. Right? We have another 1. We need to remember a to the 0 power is equal to 1 as long as a is not equal to 0. Okay? So, y to the 0 is equal to 1. Do I need to write down 1 over there? Not really, because we have some other factors. 1 times anything is equal to anything itself, so we can just make it disappear. Indeed, from the very beginning, if we have a clear mind, we think about y to the negative 2 divided by y to the negative 2. Right away, we should know the answer would be 1, right? Because we have the same thing divided by itself. Now, let's bring the negative 2 exponent inside the parentheses. So we have to remember another exponential rule. A raise it to the m and then raise it to the n power. What would that equals to? A raise it to the m times n. We times the exponents together this time. Okay, not adding. Sometimes students just add them together. So this time we will have 4 raise it to the negative 2 times x raise it to the negative 4 and then raise it to the negative 2 times z to the 8 and raise it to the negative 2. So that would becomes 4 to the negative 2 x raise it to the negative 2 times negative 4 times negative 2, and then times z raised to the 8 times negative 2. So that would be equals to 4 to the negative 2 times z raised to the 8 times z raised to the negative 16. Finally, let's take care of the negative exponent, just like what we had before. We have x raised to the 8. The other two factors have a negative exponent, so I need to bring it down to the denominator. So 4 to the second times z to the 16. Can we do a little bit more? Yes, what is 4 squared? That would be 16. So we have x to the 8 divided by 16 z to the 16. And that is my final answer. Now this is just a little bit review. And we don't just have 4 exponential rules. We have more than that. So help yourself, if you are struggling in that area and you know where to find your answer, you need to go back to that particular section. Help yourself to remember, the other two formulas, what would that be? Okay? Help yourself to master this particular area. Let's take a look at number 3, another type of problems. Write an equation in the slope-intercept form. The question asks you clearly to write the equation of the line in the slope-intercept form. What is the slope-intercept form? Good. Y equals to mx plus b. We have to understand where there is some other form that we need to know. Right? But the question asks you to make it becomes y equals to mx plus b. In order for us to find the equation of a line, we need 2 things. We need to know a point, and we need to know what's the other. A point and what? Point and a slope. So, do we have a point? Yes, it's given. Do we know the slope? Not yet. They didn't give us a slope, but they give us other information. They're telling us it's parallel to another line, y equals to negative 5x plus 6. For parallel line, what happened to their slope? They are the same. So, if I know what would be the slope for this line, then I would know the slope of the line that I'm looking for. What is the slope for this particular line? The slope is negative 5. Y is equal to mx plus b. This is already in slope-intercept form, so we can identify the m immediately. So now we got the m is equals to negative 5, and we have a point 5 comma negative 5. So therefore, y is equals to mx plus b, and then we substitute the x value, which is 5. We substitute the y value, which is negative 5, and we substitute the m value, which is negative 5 in this case, into the formula. So we got the negative 5 is equals to negative 5 times 5 plus b. So we got negative 5 is equals to negative 25 plus b. So what is b equals to? B would be 20. We add 25 on both sides. So is that the answer? That is not the answer. The question is not asking you to find b. The question is asking you to find the equation of the line in slope-intercept form. So be sure to answer properly. The equation of the line is what? Y equals to negative 5x plus 20. At the end, we replace the m and the b value back into the slope-intercept form. So we will have this. Okay? Now make your answer nice and neat. So write down the sentence. Don't just somehow put down y equal to negative 5x plus 20 somewhere on the paper and then, hey, you know where to find the answer. Make it clear. Answer the question nicely. Take a look at the next one. Find the equation of the line, again, in the slope-intercept form, passing through 5, 2 and perpendicular to another line. We want to find the slope and we need a point. We got a point already, 5, negative 2, but they did not give us the slope. But they give us something else. They're telling us there is a perpendicular line. What happened to the perpendicular line? What happened to their slope? Well, let's identify the slope for this line first. What is the slope for this line? The slope is 1 over 4. All right, good. And there is another line parallel to this. So what do we know about the slope? Well, the perpendicular line. For perpendicular line, their slope times together would becomes negative 1. So another way to look at that is one of the slope would be the negative reciprocal of the others. So we need to know what is the negative reciprocal. If you don't remember that, you go back to where your notes talking about all this. So m is equals to negative 4 this time. And then we have the point 5, negative 2. So the rest would be just like the previous problem. We have y is equal to the mx plus b. And then I'm going to replace the y by 2 and x by 5. So we got 2 is equal to negative 4 times 5 plus b. So 2 would be equals to negative 20 plus b. So that means the b would be, what would be the b? 22. We add 20 on both sides. So finally, answer the question clearly. The equation of the line is y equals to negative 4x plus 22. Let's see another one. Yes? That is the negative reciprocal. So check it out. Write it down. Negative reciprocal is what you need to look into. Let's take a look at the next one. Number 5. Another type of problems. Solve the system by addition method. So this is the method of elimination. We have two equations and we want to solve this by method of elimination. So we need to follow 7-step recipe. Label the equation first. Give it a name. This is equation 1 and this is the equation 2. And we have to choose a variable to eliminate. So choose to eliminate what variable? Variable, so y, we only have 2 choices. Which one would be easier? We need to look ahead to think about which one would be better. It's not just doesn't matter. If you just randomly pick a number, a variable, and very often you choose the difficult path and then you make your life much difficult. Think about the LCM. 5 and 7. What would be the LCM? 35. So in order for me to achieve that goal, I make 5 times 7. And I also need to times the 7 by -5. But how about the LCM for the coefficient of y? 2 and 4. What is the LCM? It would be just 4. I already have 4. So what I need is turn the -2 into 4, -4. So which one is easier to eliminate? The y variable is easier to eliminate. So I am going to multiply the first equation by 2. So that would give me 10x minus 4y is equal to -2. And I call this equation 3. And then the next step, we should add the equation 2 and equation 3 together. However, some like to put down the equation 2 again to stack them up. That is absolutely fine. So put down the equation 2 again. We have this. There's no need for you to rename that, to give it a new name, because it's the same equation 2. And now, the next step, I have equation 3 plus equation 2. Now make your points clear, telling people what are you doing. So stack them up, and then we got the 17x is equals to 51. When we add them together, the y will be eliminated. So I got 17x is equal to 51. How can I get x by itself? I divide both sides by 17. So what would that be? X would be equals to 3. And now, what do we need to do next? Are we done? No, not yet. We only get one of the variable. We got x. And then the second half would be like the method of substitution. So we continue here. We will substitute x equals to 3 into which equation? Into equation 1 would be better. Now again, don't say doesn't matter. Yes, either way, you will get the y. But there is a better equation to choose. So think ahead. See which one would be better for you. For the method of elimination, 3 is definitely not the right choice. Unlike the method of substitution, we always plug it back into equation 3. So let's see, in equation 1, we have 5x minus 2y is equal to -1. And so I replace the x by 3. I got 5 times 3 minus 2 times y is equal to -1. So I have one equation with one unknown. So let's continue to simplify that. And then bring the y to the right. And so I got 16 is equals to 2y. And finally, y will be equals to 8. Are we done? One more step. Answer the question clearly. Therefore, the solution is x comma y, which is equals to 3 comma 8. Let's turn to the other side. Everything okay? Let's review method of substitution. Again, use the 7-step recipe. We give the first equation a name. This is equation 1. And then the second one, this is the equation 2. For the method of substitution, we need to select an equation first. And then tell what variable to solve for. So I should select which equation and solve for which variable. We have 4 choices, of course, but which one is the best? We will pick equation 2 and then solve for x. By doing this, then we can avoid dealing with fraction. So I have equation 2, x plus 4y is equals to 35. And I want to get the x by itself, so I minus 4y on both sides. So I got x is equals to 35 minus 4y. And then I give it a new name. This is my equation 3. And then substitute x equals to 35 minus 4y into which equation? Into the first one. So that we can use both of the equation together. If I pick equation 1 from the beginning, then I will substitute into where? Equation 2. Right? The idea is using both of them. So let's see what happened. I have equation 1, which is 5x minus 2y is equal to negative 1. But now the x will be replaced. So I got 5 times 35 minus 4y, close the parenthesis, minus 2y is equals to negative 1. Now by doing this, then we will have one equation with one unknown. So we can solve for y. Distribute the 5. 5 times 35, 175. Minus 5 times 4y, 20y. Minus 2y is equal to negative 1. Now again, you should have your dancing shoe with you. And if you struggle, if you're not sure how to get 5 times 35, you should have no doubt, no hesitation. Let's double check my answer before you write it down to ensure you got the right the right process. Continue to simplify. We got 175 minus 22y is equal to negative 1. And so we got 176 is equal to 22y. Divide both sides by 22. Then we got y is equals to 8. Are we done? No. We still need to find out what x would be. So I'm going to substitute y equals to 8 into where? Into which one? Number 3. It would be positive. We bring the y to the right side. Am I correct? So that would become 22y. And we bring the negative 1 to the left. So that would be plus 1 on both sides. X is equal to 35 minus 4y. So that becomes 35 minus 4 times 8. So that gives you 3. And don't forget to answer your question. Don't just leave it like that. So therefore, the solution is x comma y equals to 3 comma 8. Let's take a look at number 7. (35 minus 4 times 8) is that what we... Yes. 4 times 8 is 32, and then subtract from 35 is 3. Number 7, we are solving an inequalities, a system of inequality, and let's graph it out afterward, and also express your solution in interval notation. So you have to follow the instruction. At the very end, you give the answer in interval notation. How many inequalities do we have? We have 2 of them. So we got the negative 4x less than or equals to negative 12. So let's see what happened. We got the negative 4x less than or equals to negative 12. We want to get the x by itself. So how can we do that? We divide both sides by negative 4. That is a very good example. When we divide both sides by negative 4, what do we need to do? We have to flip the sign. We are going to flip that right away, not later. So that means we would have to write it over again. And then divide both sides by negative 4. And then you flip over the sign immediately. When you come to the inequality, it's very similar to the equation. You can freely add both sides by the same thing. You can freely minus both sides by the same thing, times and divide. But whenever you times and divide by a negative number, you must flip the inequality sign immediately. So we got x is greater than or equals to 3. That is one inequality. There is another one. We have 3x greater than 9x minus 6. So we minus 9x on both sides. So we got the negative 6x greater than negative 6. And then we divide both sides by negative 6. So again, I have to write it over again and divide both sides by negative 6. And then flip the inequality sign immediately. So what would that become? X will be less than 1. So we have two inequalities. Let's see if we can graph the first one. X is greater than or equals to 3. So we put a closed circle on the 3, and then greater than, so which the arrow is going to the left or right? Going to the right. And then the other one is x is less than 1. So I have an open circle. And the arrow is going to the left or right? Going to the left this time. And the question is or. So how many arrows are we looking for? Are we looking for 2 arrows? It's just 1. Either or, just 1 would be sufficient enough. So we are going to shape this. And we are going to shape this. X is greater than or equals to 3, or x is less than 1. Are we done? Not yet. We need to express the solution set in interval notation. So what's that mean? The interval notation is from where to where? Negative infinity all the way to 1, and then close the parenthesis and union from 3, but it's open brackets because it's including 3 all the way to infinity and close the parenthesis. And that will be my interval notation. Why is a open bracket? Because it's equals to 3. When you including that point, you would use a bracket. Otherwise, we use the parenthesis. Number 8, we also have a compound inequalities. We have the left side, we have the right side, but we also have the middle side. We have 0 less than or equals to 2x over 5 minus 2 less than 2. Well, there is something in this compound inequality we don't like to see. What is that? Fraction. So whenever you see the fraction, is there any way that I can get rid of the fraction? Find the LCD. Good. The LCD in this case would be 5. There's only one denominator. So we are going to multiply 5 on all sides. So let's see what happens. We have 5 times 0 less than or equals to 5 times the 2x over 5 minus 2, close the parenthesis, less than 5 times 2. So on the left side, what would that be? 0. Less than or equals to. And in the middle, I have to distribute the 5. So 5 times 2x over 5, that will give me 2x. Minus, would that be minus 2? Minus 10. Now don't forget to distribute the 5. Now if you still make this type of mistake, good. Put the notes on put a mark. So help yourself to remind whenever the next time you review this, oh, I should distribute into both. So that would be 5 times 2, 10. Less than 10. And now I want to get the x by itself. So I'm going to add 10 on all sides. So that will give me 10 less than or equals to 2x less than 20. Finally, we want to get the x by itself. So we divide all sides by what? By 2. So we will get 5 less than or equals to x less than 10. So going back to the graph, we have x is less than 10. So we have an open circle on 10. X is less than 10. So the arrow is going which direction? To the left or to the right? To the left. And then the other one, 5 is less than or equals to x. Now that is a little bit hard for you to tell because we used to have the x on the left hand side. But we can flip the whole thing around, or we can read backward. X is greater than 5. So we have 5, x is greater than or equal. So we have a closed circle. X is greater than or equals to 5. So the arrow is going to the left or to the right? To the right. Like this. Are we looking for 1 arrow or 2 arrows? We are looking for 2 arrows. This compound inequality, that means is x is greater than or equals to 5 and x is less than 10. Now indeed, another way, faster way for you to graph is, if you take a look at this form, 5 less than or equal to x less than 10, right away you know 5 is here, 10 is here, and the x is dancing right in the middle. So one goes here, the other one like that, and then x will be in the middle. One more thing we need to do. What is that? Write the solution in interval notation. So what would that be? Interval notation would be 5 all the way to 10 and close the parenthesis. Let's see number 9. We want to solve an equation. So we are looking for the x value. We have the absolute value of x plus 7 is equal to 7. So what's that mean? That means I have x plus 7 is equals to 7. Is that right? Is that what it means? We have a little bit more. Or what? X plus 7 equal to negative 7. We could have 2 possibilities, because if the absolute value of x is equals to a, then the x would be equals to plus or minus a. X could be positive a or negative a. We have 2 equations now. And then we solve these 2 equations separately. X plus 7 equals 7. then minus 7 on both sides, then x is equals to 0. And for the right hand side, we minus 7 on both sides, we got x is equals to negative 14. So answer the question clearly. So therefore, the solution is open bracelet negative 14 comma 0. That is the set notation. Okay. Put it in a bracelet, not parentheses, and put them in order. The smaller number go first. Take a look at number 10. Very similar, but a little bit more complicated. We got the absolute value of 2x plus 6 plus 3 is equal to 7. So what can I do? Minus 3 on both sides first, so that the equation will be just like the previous problem. So we minus 3 on both sides, so we got the absolute value of 2x plus 6 is equals to 4. And now we break this up into two equations. So we have 2x plus 6 is equals to 4, or 2x plus 6 is equals to negative 4. So we minus 6 on both sides. We got 2x is equal to negative 2. And so we have x is equal to negative 1. On the right hand side, we minus 6 on both sides. We got 2x is equals to negative 10. Divide both sides by 2. We have x is equal to negative 5. And don't leave the answer like that. Let's answer properly. The solution is open bracelet negative 5 comma negative 1.